Welcome back to the channel, everybody. As promised, I have a very special guest today. Classy Crypto is one of the more underrated influencers in the space. He's got like 30,000 YouTube subscribers, 50,000 Twitter subscribers. He's big in the Terra Luna Classic community. Classy, go ahead and say hi.
Yeah, how you guys doing in the Ben Crypto channel? It's been like forever since I've checked out Ben, and he's been doing pretty well. So, also, by the way, I got to tell you, 13,000 on the crypto gaming channel, sleeper channel. One day crypto gaming is going to blow up, and I swear that channel is going to do great. But yeah, no, Terra Luna Classic blew up. Crypto.com is blowing up. A bunch of these different assets that were underdogs are beginning to blow up. And I feel like there's that hole in which can be built, right? So I think people are beginning to fill that hole. And that's why these communities are going crazy. But pleasure to be here with you, Ben.
Yeah, so he's very known. It's a pleasure to have you too. He's known for he's big in the Terra Luna Classic community. Don't underestimate Classy. You might remember Terra Classic did like a 5x in September. That was pretty much just Classy, a couple other influencers doing a lot of videos, just really getting the retail crowd enthused. So yeah, this guy is more powerful than he looks. Don't underestimate him. So you were in the Do Kwon did like a Twitter Spaces yesterday. Did you partake in that at all?
Yeah, so there are these guys. It's called like CFI and a bunch of these other guys like Panther, and they do these joke spaces where they're saying that Elon Musk is going to join in 15 minutes or Do Kwon's going to join in 15 minutes. He actually joined. So on the Twitter space, he went over Terra Luna for a bit, and most of the questions were just people kind of rating him over, what's going to happen with Feather, what's going to happen with some of the new features, because Do Kwon recently actually said that he's going to have new station integrations for more plays on Cosmos, not just Terra Luna. So it's really nice to hear that. But at some point, this guy called Kwon joined in, and he's big in the Terra Luna Classic space for various reasons. But he kind of asked a couple questions, and we got a couple notes. The first note was about Terra Station. If you didn't know, a TFL, which is by subsidiary owned by Do Kwon, has been maintaining Terra Station, which is like how we do our governance in general. And for the most part, people have been worried that he just stops maintaining this, and then we have to just fund those endpoints. We could do it, but it costs like $100,000, and it's some pretty expensive stuff long term. So he said he's going to maintain Terra Station for the LUNC community as long as it takes. He's comfortable doing it for the foreseeable future. And to me, it's nice to see that he sees at least the value in the Luna Classic community. Something else he said is that we've been having issues lately with our governance structure. People have been having trouble passing governance votes because there's a bunch of like different tribes at this point. When you have an emerging economy, there's always all these different little oligarchs trying to vie for power. I guess there's like the influencers and the validators and all these different other guys that put out proposals at some point. And like he said, like there needs to be a unified voice, but he thinks that decentralized governance will always work over having something like a CEO or a CTO of a company just centralizing the entire sphere, right? They could do whatever the hell they want, but with decentralized governance, at least people have the opinion or the input of doing that. I don't know if you knew, Ben, but I do have a Terra Luna Classic validator, and through that, I can vote for my delegates. So it is some pretty awesome stuff that we have there. But something else that Do Kwon said on the AMA was that he was happy to include the Luna Classic community in pretty much like all of their Luna collaborations. So it seems like he's kind of doubling down on the narrative in which like we need Luna Classic. And I think like that's good, right? Give the power over to Luna Classic. We have the people, and then just build from there. So he says a lot of the problems Luna Classic has now is short-term. Long-term Luna Classic is going to succeed because of the size of the community. Yeah, pretty obvious stuff. And the last thing he said pretty much was that I don't know if you knew, Ben, but we had a burn tax that was like pretty outrageous. It was 1.2% per transaction on our chain. It got people really excited back in September, but like nowadays, people don't like that, right? And we changed it to 0.2% to make it more friendly for dApps because we're about to get this like thing called parity in IBCs. What that means, if you guys didn't know, is it's called Inter-Blockchain Communication Protocol. It's pretty much like a bridge where you'd send from ETH to BNB, except it's not ETH to BNB. It's, Luna Classic to Luna or Luna Classic to Juno. Everything on Cosmos just becomes interconnected. And this is pretty much the safest way of quote unquote bridging any asset. There's never been any hacks on IBC. And through that, people are suspecting that the parity of the Luna Classic blockchain is going to get a bunch of developers that are on these chains with less people on them to our chain to build on it. Because if there's 5 million people looking for dApps, there's definitely a developer that wants to cash in on that.
So the excellent updates right there. So Do Kwon is bullish. Now, do you think post the FTX implosion, is he going to be a little more vocal, kind of doing more Twitter Spaces, interviews, etc.? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, so he actually had an audit come out with LFG. I remember that happened, I think it was last Tuesday or something like that. It was through this third party firm, kind of confirming that LFG didn't have any fraud out there and everything that they'd said during May 8th to May 12th was valid. They did spend all of that money through TFL. I think Dokon in general is kind of just saying that in general, Terra Luna is in this phase where there's a lot more silence, but it means that they could build these dApps that people usually wouldn't want to do, right? I mean, there's a difference between building like a smart contract for some simple operation that most people already do and something innovative to build more chains, which is something they're working on, right? But I think we'll see what ends up happening there. But his name definitely looks a lot better now than it did a month ago. FTX collapsed, Celsius collapsed, Voyager collapsed. Genesis looks like it might go bankrupt. It might not go bankrupt. We'll see what ends up happening with the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. But overall, I think it looks a lot better on Terra Luna. Obviously, like I think people will compare it to vehicular manslaughter. Well, where it wasn't intentional, right? But because it happened, either way, you're still guilty in some way. So I think his name is definitely going to be tainted pretty much forever, right? That's like obvious stuff. But good thing for like Luna Classic. There's a reason like Luna Classic has taken over Luna 2.0 because Luna 2.0 had a good like almost 10x market cap over Terra Luna Classic at some point, and now it's flipped inverse. We have almost 5x the market cap of Terra Luna 2.0 because I think people just can't trust Do Kwon right now. And even if he has good intentions, the fact that he did it in the first place, it's going to be really tough for him to gain that trust back. So we'll see what ends up happening for Do Kwon and TFL and all these different dApps on 2.0. But the idea, right, for Luna Classic at least, is to bridge that over to our new development team with the Terra Rebels, with Terra C Vita, with some of these independent parties, with people from Osmosis like Notional DAO, Jacob Gadigan, that's helping us with the actual IBC on Osmosis. So that's all exciting stuff that's going to happen in the foreseeable future. And we'll see what happens there. But, I think it's just like, it's tough to back Do Kwon when there's still this big old shitstorm of what happened before. It hasn't even been a year. Now, crypto is going to get regulated in due part. And I'm not sure if this guy's ever going to be free to walk without people looking after him. But I guess like something he did say on the AMA was that his security is actually better now than it was a couple months ago, because when he was bullish and when the entire market was bullish, we were at this state, right, where people were, saying, oh, we're going to kidnap your family or we're going to go after your kids or something like that, right? Nowadays, it's kind of just like, we hate you because you rugged Luna. So we'll see what happens there. But I mean, crypto is a pretty forgiving space. So there is the chance of a comeback. And I'd argue that a centralized entity like SBF is significantly worse, especially backed by like the Democratic Party and the way the fluff pieces are being written, than Do Kwon. So we'll see what happens there, but I think he'll be fine long term.
In the long run, things are looking much
Yeah.
worse for SBF. I mean, let's be real here. The coin was intentionally nuked by
Yeah.
SBF. SBF had a long-term reputation of just annihilating his enemies. Do Kwon never had that reputation. As the CEO of any coin that especially has a lot of like retail investors, you're always going to get a lot of crap, if the coin goes under. But Do Kwon didn't do anything to intentionally destroy his enemies or anything. So I do think he's going to get over it. So I'm bullish on Terra Classic there. Now let's talk about Grayscale. So you just mentioned that. So right now, if you don't know, people, Grayscale is trading at it's trading at a 42% discount, meaning to buy like one BTC, all you have to do is spend about $9,500 to get the $16,000 BC in their investment trust. The risk being they might go under like FTX, then you're not going to get your money back. So what's your feeling on Grayscale? You think they're going to make it through? You think they're going to go under? Any idea?
Well, we got news yesterday that Kathy Woods from ARK Invest did invest like $1.5 million, like 1.5 million on their trust. So if she's investing in it, she's pretty good at investing, right, into these tech stocks. It should be fine, but I mean, there's always that risk, right? So I mean, I wouldn't take the risk, but I'm sure people are taking that risk right now with arbitrage.
And they are. I'd probably caution against that arbitrage
Yeah.
anytime this sort of spread like erupts. Like when Mount Gox, their spread, it started at like 20-30% back in 2014. Then it got up to a 75% discount when it was getting really risky. Then they went under. So anyone who tried to take advantage of the spread and buy Bitcoin, they got nothing. So anytime I hear these discounts, I've never ever seen a time in crypto where the company actually did pull through and people made money on the arbitrage. Who knows? That's interesting about Kathy Wood. But then, yeah, Grayscale is not like submitting their proof of reserves of security concerns. I'm just not really sure I buy that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I personally like I stray away from the stock market unless you're a hedge fund, right? I mean, it makes sense for hedge funds to invest into GBTC, but it doesn't really make sense for retail to invest into GBTC. The risk is too high, and the only people investing into these things are hedge funds, and they know a lot more than we do. So I wouldn't take that risk.
Yeah, investment trusts like that cater more towards the institutional investor or sort of larger scale individual investor. That's that. So let's see. So what else? So now you're big on the crypto Twitter scene. You tweet a lot, classy tweets, probably more than anyone else that I follow. So Twitter's just been wild the last few days. I mean, we have BitBoy and Kevin O'Leary just jawing at each other. Have you been following this at all?
Yeah, I have.
I feel like if these two see each other in person, I mean, it's going to turn violent. These two are just going to go at each other.
I feel like it's kind of like those memes where you've got that door and the two dogs barking at each other, and then when they actually meet, they're really not as aggressive. That's probably what that is.
It's yeah, I think on Kevin O'Leary, that would be on his side. Yeah, with BitBoy, I just think he might snap if he saw one of these people in person. I mean, he's talking about flying down to the Bahamas to confront Sam Bankman-Fried. He's getting Kevin O'Leary's phone number and texting him, like taking the Twitter beef over text. You see, so I hope he turns out okay in the end. He doesn't push the boundary too much, but it's great
Yeah,
entertainment to watch.
yeah.
He makes me a
I'd be
little nervous.
careful if I was BitBoy.
Yeah, sometimes those like bounty hunters, they just push it a little too far in one situation. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Yeah, and then what do you think about Paul Graham? Did you hear his like FUD comments on Twitter the other day? That he's the Y Combinator founder. He just put out this like hearsay rumor. He's like, oh, this friend I've known for 10 years. He says crypto is going to go under and it's going to cause mass
What?
contagion. Yeah, this is a guy, 1.5 million followers. At first, I saw his tweet, which got tons of attention. So I'm like, okay, maybe he's like a lowbrow self-help kind of guy, and this is the kind of tweet he put out. No, it's the founder of Y Combinator, Silicon Valley legend. He invented the whole incubator model. This
Yeah.
guy, he's as credible as it gets, and he's delving into the kind of rumor mill fake news. I don't know. It's been wild, that's for sure.
What did he say about it?
He just put out one tweet, then Vitalik jumped on and started hammering the tweet. Kobe jumped on, started hammering the tweet. He just basically said a friend of his, Paul Graham, a friend he's known 10 years, told me essentially the crypto industry is just going to cause massive contagion and something's going to implode. And he basically was talking like it's going to go down to zero.
Yeah, I feel like I did see that. Vitalik was
Yeah.
pretty pissed off about that, wasn't he?
Vitalik had the greatest response. Oh, and such just he was like writing poetry. He gave it back to him. It's great.
Yeah. You know, it's the same always. There was this guy that he made this news report on crypto, what was it, a decade ago, I think? And he was like, "Oh, it only took us a decade and the prices were a bit different, but crypto's finally going to die." But I mean, if we look at the actual data, most people are actually accumulating Bitcoin right now. Like retail is accumulating. They're not selling off. Historically, people usually sell off their Bitcoin during these times. And like I looked at Coinbase, I made a video on Coinbase where I was like, you know, most of their volume at this point is coming from institutions. I wonder why that is, right? I wonder why most of Coinbase's volume right now is institutions versus back in quarter 3, half of that volume was retail traders. So that's changing very quickly. And the dynamic might seem like people are just sizing in on this bottom. It's always the same thing. There's peak fear and then people are just sizing in. I've seen this so many times at this point that we're utterly desensitized to this, and people will continue to say Bitcoin's dead. They've said that thousands upon thousands of times at this point, and they've said it about Tesla. They've said it about most of these tech stops. Google, Amazon's going to go under. It's just a bookstore. So, I mean, I take everything with a grain of salt. You know, I like to say that the news outlets and regular media, right? They go out and say whatever they say. But for the most part, it's I guess there's someone in the back end lobbying them to push out opinions in a certain stance. So I don't trust any of that crap. I think it's just BS. He's probably buying Bitcoin, low key.
Yeah, and I'm seeing the same thing. Retail was like 6 months ago. They were selling hard to pay for expenses when things went down, but that was like 5, 6 months ago, panic selling. Now last month, I have kind of starting to see them to buy in again. So that is good news right there. And let's talk about crypto.com. So you're a big fan of that. How'd you get into the crypto.com community and World Cup? Are you bullish on it with the advertisements I'm seeing them display there?
Yeah, so crypto.com I covered last year when it was first having its craze. It was pretty much one of the first cryptocurrency wallets that I had onboarded into. Of course, it's a centralized exchange, and they are, for the most part, one of the most regulated companies. Like they have the most licenses globally. They even have like licenses Binance doesn't have, which is like the Singapore one. Binance doesn't have that one. So in that essence, they're very regulated, right? We all know how regulated Singapore is. So what happened was Kronos was being rebranded, right? And their ecosystem had these like crazy accelerator programs where they were investing 100 million, 200 million, which they're still doing, by the way, into building out that decentralized token. And it's kind of like positioning itself in a similar way to BNB, whereas they've burnt out most of what they had. Most of the Crow supply is burnt, and it's just like the people own Crow at this point. And now I think their ecosystem is like 4 to 5 times bigger than Solana because of this crash. It's if I had to check DeFi Llama right now, probably the seventh biggest ecosystem on the planet. So it's something that's being slept on over and over. VVS Finance, Tectonics, MMF, all plays that have gone crazy parabolic over the past couple of years, right? It feels like at this point, but it's really only been months. And so I think like Crow as a play is going to be one of the best undervalued crypto exchanges out there. I mean, if this either goes bankrupt right now or it's just so undervalued, right? This thing was worth what, like 16 billion at some point, and through its actual chain, it's hitting all-time highs in investments per Crow. USD value, no, but in terms of Crow, it is hitting all-time highs. So there's a lot of interest in their DeFi wallet and their DeFi aspects, which for me is the place I'm most bullish on. You know, I have owned a ton of NFTs, like there's like Croge and like Crow Skulls, and now I bought Loaded Lions. Those things like skyrocketed after the bottom. They went from like 1.3 thousand to $2,000 heading into the World Cup. They even airdropped an NFT that's worth like $60, but like they're building out a lot of things. There's like a game coming out. There's a bunch of these DeFi lending protocols, DEXs, all kinds of things that you would expect from a solid layer one blockchain. And that's exactly what Kronos is positioning itself to do. Keep in mind, like they did proof of reserves. They went out there, they crushed anything people would have said about them. They're still getting a ton of volume. They have a positive inflow of people entering the exchange now versus like when the exodus was happening on that bank run. People were, I mean, they were running en masse, right? That quickly changed though, because people realized, it feels like at least, Binance is just manipulating people, right? They're just saying, hey, this crypto.com exchange isn't that great. I wouldn't trust it. Gate.io, this exchange with 1,500 coins and hundreds of billions of dollars worth of volume. Ugh, I hate that one. And Coinbase, the publicly traded stock on the NASDAQ. Oh, that one, I don't know about this one, but they might be lying on something. So I humbly await the day that that Binance kind of gets stabbed in the back for that, because I cannot believe that he's getting away with these things. You know, I was a big supporter of Binance before the whole FTX situation. And I always thought to myself after this FTX crash, why did he do it when Bitcoin was at such critical levels? Why couldn't he have done it when Bitcoin was at 60K? Was there a chance that FTX would not have gone insolvent if he had done this in the middle of a bull market? So these are things like I think about, right? Because of course, when markets are down, the likelihood of them being insolvent is significantly higher. So I guess maybe time will tell whether or not this is true or not. But there's a lot of instigation going on now. And I think crypto.com is going to be one of those exchanges that is going to come back inevitably.
Everyone's only talking about Coinbase. They're going to benefit from the FTX implosion. They're going to pick up the slack. But crypto.com, they're right there too. They're really going to be getting a lot of new customers, I think. It's also worth noting. So the two companies that were going to sponsor the World Cup, Algorand and crypto.com, you see crypto.com's name splashed all over the games. Algorand, that's turned out to just be a technical sponsorship. So the Algorand community is kind of a little upset. They're not seeing the Algorand name, but it wasn't a sponsorship. They're just building the wallet. So it was like a technical partnership. But crypto.com has sort of came through with that partnership there.
Yeah,
What
they
else?
put them all over the arenas. I mean, I thought it was cool, but I don't think it's gonna make us 10x, right? Like it's just like exposure. It's eyes. That's all it is. So when people actually get into crypto on the next cycle, they'll be like, "Oh, I saw that guy in the FIFA World Cup." So it should be good for us
Right,
long
like,
term.
how much of
Yeah.
it does it actually convert to people creating a Crypto.com account? But at least it's right in back of the goals. The placement is money. Hasn't been a disappointment there. So we'll see. So let's change gears a little. So Elizabeth Holmes, she just got a very strict sentence, 11 years. This is white collar crime, big company, USA white collar crime. I'd imagine the FTX crew is probably kind of shaking in their boots once they heard the sentence. What's your opinion on that, Classy?
How much did Elizabeth Holmes donate to the Democratic Party? I think that's a good question we should ask, right?
I don't think she was involved in any politics or donations or anything.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Because SBF has that advantage for him, and he's getting a lot of fluff pieces. He's getting a lot of good PR after the crash. I'd be surprised at this point if he even goes to prison. As dark as that sounds, right? The corruption in our society is pretty rampant, and he has backing from what MIT and then the SEC chairman, the former one. There's a lot of things with Dave Friedberg that people are pointing out that he had this ultimate bet. He ended up pretty much getting no consequences from that. So I would be surprised if he gets anything. 11 years from the tech bubble. I mean, I remember when that happened, she deserves it 100%, but I'd be surprised to see SBF get the same.
It's yeah, I'm not these newspapers, so they've been writing overly positive pieces for my viewers. I don't know if it's a very complicated science, like the laws that were broken. I don't know if the newspapers just don't understand it, or if it's that they do have chummy
They're just
relationship.
getting paid. Yeah.
Most people saying it could be a little pay for play action, which I don't think it's illegal if they're like writers to pay them to write a favorable article. I'm not even sure there's any law against that, so that hasn't been proven. But some people think that. So who knows? It could be Carolyn's dad is head of the economics department at MIT. That's a little intimidating right there. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah. It's so you're go so you're so I'm going to see you next week at DCentral. Actually, it's a conference in Miami. We're excited that. I'm excited to meet a lot of people there. So you are speaking on a panel, right?
Yeah, yeah. So they moved my panel. Now this one's about like networking and Web3. I'm going to be speaking with a couple people. I guess they thought the influencers should probably be on the panel about networking, which I guess makes sense, right? So yeah, I'm excited to speak there. I'm also speaking in Web3 Summit, Women in Web3. That's like right after DecentralCon, still during Art Basel. And then another one that I've got in Miami is like Go Expoverse, which is happening in March. That's another like major crypto event. There's so many crypto events happening even during this bear market, and there's still people attending them, right? Because a lot of it is institutions trying to do networking. So we'll see what happens there. But the goal going there is to, of course, meet people and see what the future of crypto really looks like. Because the people going to these events are looking for funding, they're looking for VCs, they're trying to promote their products that they feel are ready to be promoted. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm definitely excited. I know that BitBoy that you were talking about is also going to Decentral and Women in Web3. Like a couple other influencers that are very prominent are going there. So like it's a heated place to be, right? It's a nice place to be, and we'll see what happens there, right?
Yep, the BitBoy will be there. A lot of the people will be there. I'm very excited. If you see either of us, come and say hi if you're going to be there. I didn't even know about that one in March, the Expo. So Miami, it's just like every month, a bunch of big conferences.
Yeah, literally every month.
Yeah, what day you getting in Sunday or what?
I am going tomorrow for Thanksgiving. I used to live in Miami, remember? So I'm just gonna go over there, have Thanksgiving, just chill around, go to the beach, make some videos, have some fun, right?
Yeah, no, that's the plan. So now it's last question. Let's talk about the bear market. So any like when do you foresee it? Like I initially had December as a month with these conferences. Maybe the interest rate announcement will be a little bit better December 13th. The Fed might pivot a little bit. I had initially had that, but then we had this major black swan event. Anytime a black swan event happens, just all bets are off. You just can't predict anything. Although I would have predicted more of a market nuke given the FTX implosion. At least we're at 16.5. I don't know. Where do you see the market heading?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I was wrong. I thought the market bottom was the 17,600 bottom that we saw back in like June. We done pretty well, but I guess Black Swan event, right? We're all wrong. We're all wrong here. I didn't expect FTX to go under. So I guess if you really wanted to go through historical basis, bear markets usually end around that December time. It's been what 260, 270 days. We're getting there to like the average bear market. We'll see what happens. The Fed pivot is coming, right? So people are excited for that. And, if GBDC doesn't end up going under, if crypto.com doesn't end up going under, if Genesis ends up getting the funding that it needs from DCG, I'd suspect this is probably the bottom. But we'll see what happens there.
If no other major exchange goes under, and then if Grayscale actually manages to pull through, then I think we're definitely at the bottom. And it's also where when we were at 17.6, that was a 74% low from the high. Previous bull markets had been 78 and 84%. So that's why a lot of people thought there's going to be one more nuke. Now the bottom was like 15.6 or 15.8. That brought us to about exactly 78, 79%, exactly in line with previous bear market falls. So yeah, I mean, we still need like a catalyst incident to kind of get some positive momentum, but these conferences coming up, next week, that should be a good start. So we shall see. So anything, here's Classy's YouTube page, doing a little share screen.
Oh, you give me a show.
Classy Crypto. Yep. Give him a follow. Check him out. Anything else you want to plug on here? Any other projects you're interested in?
Yeah, dude, like it's pretty much that right now. I mean, like I have my crypto gaming channel. I cover like Gala Games, Illuvium, Star Atlas. We're waiting for those plays. I saw Solana Breakpoint. They go over a bunch of projects on Solana, and there was like 40 games, I think, that were gonna come out in the next month or two. So it's gonna be insane to see all these indie titles come out. We'll see what ends up happening there. I hope they change their marketing. Please don't do NFT games. Do play and own or something like that. Don't say they're NFTs. I guess it might excite people. We'll see if that industry ends up picking up ever. But yeah, for the most part, it's just those DeFi protocols take up a ton of time. I do like AMAs with the developers on Terra Luna Classic. I do it with a bunch of people that are prominent on Chrono. So that right now takes up a lot of time. We'll see what ends up happening with the brand a year from now. I'm sure it's going to be very different, but it was definitely a pleasure to be on your show, Ben.
Yes, thank you very much for coming on. I'm excited to meet you next week. Stay on with me right after I stop recording here. But yes, it's Classy Crypto. Check him out. Give him a follow if you're at DCentral. Say hi to him. Say hi to me. And I'll be back tomorrow with a new episode. Classy. Catch you later.
See you, gents.